Thompson Productions.
No way, Jose.
The following footage proves beyond any doubt that the tanks intentionally set the house on fire. It proves that the Branch Davidians were murdered. You can see that this tank has a gas jet on the front that shoots fire. You can also see the fire quite plainly. The tank goes into the house twice, and each time as it backs out, the fire at the gas jets is plainly visible.
We must all do more to recognize and look for the early warning signals that deeply troubled young people send.
Good morning. Welcome to the No Way Jose podcast. This is the Morning Dump. I am Jose Galison. It is, May the 5th? Yesterday was a stupid Star Wars holiday for all you dorks. May the 4th be with you and all that. And now it's all about the 5th. The 5th will rise again. So here we are, guys. We have some stuff to go through today. I will go and let you guys know this will be probably a little bit of a shorter episode, probably under an hour and a half or so. I do have a kitty cat that's getting really close. I need to go sit with and be a little bit of a midwife for. So I got to kind of make this one short. But there was a lot of stuff that happened this weekend that I figured we'd get into. I do want to let you guys know too, for those who are especially from the OGs of this channel who are really into the old theory stuff, I restarted my my live reading series of Democracy of the God That Failed with Toad. We did an episode last night, so that's behind the paywall. I don't know when that'll drop. We'll see. I also keep an eye out for Jake Shields stuff. I was just talking to him the other day, and I think very, 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 very soon that second episode will be dropping, like very, very soon. So keep an eye out for that. That'll be pretty sick. I'm looking forward to that one. The second one the first one was dope. The second one I think was even better. So I'm looking forward to you guys seeing that one. That one we kind of got into child trafficking rings and kind of how it's all interconnected, and so we're kind of all over the place. But I mean, for those of you guys that like this show, I think you'll be able to follow along. But with that, hey, what's up, guys? I see Lance in the chat. He said he's second, although I didn't see it first. King David, Northside, Fire Pixie, what it do? Ray, John Black. He said happy birthday to Karl Marx in Mexico. Well, that's fucking. Well, I guess today just sucks, huh? Nothing's good ever happened on the 5th, huh? All right, let's go ahead and get into... Actually, shit, give me a second. I totally forgot. We got to pay the bills around this bitch. Do want to remind you guys, get the single blade safety razor over here from our buddies over at NWJ Shave Co. Let me run down you real quick how this thing is superior in every damn way to the alternative, the stereotypical multi-blade cartridges that everyone uses. Those are usually like 2 to 5 blades on it. This is a single safety blade razor here, so you just get one, drags across your face. It gives you a smoother shave than those multi-blade nonsense. I'm telling you, from using that smoother shave, it also gives you, it's much better for your skin because you're dragging less blades across your face. So you're much less likely to get those ingrown hairs, razor burn, irritation, which, trust me, I've dealt with in the past, and so I've definitely been appreciative of NWJ Shave Co. It's also extremely affordable, much cheaper than the multi-blade cartridges if you compare the two. The first year is going to put you at about $75 for the whole year, and let's be real, it's probably going to last you a lot longer depending on how frequently you shave, because it comes with 100 razors and the pictured razor handle that you see here. And like I said, 100. So it's double-sided, so you get at least 2 shaves out of each. So at the very least, let's be real, you probably can get 4 to 6 out of it, if not even more. So really, it's only your daily shavers that's going to be that's not going to cut it. Everyone else is going to last you probably longer than a year. So a lot cheaper. It's also, you can get 10% off, as if it wasn't cheap enough, if you use Jose at checkout. And as if all of that was enough, this is a company that doesn't hate your guts. This is a company that supports your values. This is a COVID mandate refusing company. This company was born refusing the COVID mandate. So with that, though, use Jose at checkout at NWJShaveCo.com. Let them know I sent you and step up your shaving game. And Nadeau is the way to go. With that, let's go ahead and check in. See if anything else has happened in the chat. See Bobo's up in here now. What's up, guys? See some of y'all more rolling in. But all right, let's get into some stories. We had some crazy stuff happen over the weekend on the side of foreign policy. I guess we can lead with, I think, with probably was like one of the more interesting stories of this weekend. Although it kind of leaked in through last week. Oh, hey, what's up, JC? See you up in there. What's up, dude? But this leaked in through last week because I remember we talked about this a little bit. Because I think when we talked last week, there still was kind of some question marks on what was going on. I know we'd heard when I jumped on the reporting was when they had already had already had given Walls a new place to go and had found his replacement. I guess there was a small period of time where the story was floated out like, oh, he was fired, and then shortly after we found out, he was fired, but it was more like he was transferred, became the UN ambassador. Walls, by the way, if I didn't say that already. Became the UN ambassador, and this was like this being a recent development. Most people thinking this had to do with the Signal Gate thingy or whatever the hell that happened, the whole Signal chat leak thing that happened a while back. But I guess there's a lot more to the story than that, and it's not just from that original faux pas. It's from another one, another fuck up. So we'll get into that. But yeah, I did find it particularly interesting that he didn't. This guy, like I said, that the story was getting floated out that he was fired, and then we found out that then after that, no, he wasn't getting fired. He was getting transferred to UN ambassador, and his replacement was going to be Marco Rubio. So Marco Rubio is now, I guess, currently filling the role of Walls and his own role, which I forget what. So Walls is National Security Advisor. I always forget these stupid cabinet positions. Rubio had some sort of. It'll come to me later. I can't remember. It'll probably come up in the article as well here too. But so now he's handling both of these cabinet positions. The last person to do so was Kissinger, who did it for a 2-year period of time, which Kissinger is kind of one of the great evils. So, and now we have Rubio in this very, very exact same position. And if you know anything about Rubio, my oh my, is he probably busting the seams to fill those shoes. So we'll see how that works out. But on the angle of what the hell happened. Let's get into that. Let me make sure I'm actually sharing this correctly. All right, let's get into it. So this is from Responsible Statecraft. It says, Trump fired Walls because he wanted to attack Iran. This is from Ben Armbruster. It says, President Trump sacked his national security advisor, Mike Walls, because he was working with a foreign leader to push the U.S. to attack Iran, according to a new report in the Washington Post. The Post reports that while including a journalist on a Signal chat about plans to attack Houthis sealed Walls' fate, Walls initially upset Trump during Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's White House visit in February when he appeared to share the Israeli leader's conviction that the time was ripe to strike Iran. So I guess it sounds like the Signal chat is what solidified it, because I think if I remember chronologically speaking, I think Netanyahu's, and judging by the wording here, it sounds like they're saying that they're implying that Netanyahu's visit was before this. So it seems like he's been pushing for the Iran thing, so I guess this is sort of a positive. Let's keep going. Walls appeared to have engaged in intense coordination with Netanyahu about military options against Iran ahead of an Oval Office meeting between the Israeli leader and Trump, the two people said. Walls wanted to take U.S. policy in a direction Trump wasn't comfortable with because the U.S. hadn't attempted a diplomatic solution, according to one of the people. It got back to Trump, and the president wasn't happy with it, the person said. No, I don't want to subscribe to your newsletter. Leave me the fuck alone. The view by some in the administration was that Walls was trying to tip the scales in favor of military action and operating hand-in-glove with Israelis. If Jim Baker was doing a side deal with the Saudis to subvert George H.W. Bush, you'd be fired, a Trump advisor said, referring to Bush's Secretary of State. You can't do that. You work for the president of your country, not a president of another country. This is legit just fucking espionage, basically, which we'll get into more. I guess they haven't laid out exactly how over the top some of his actions seemingly were. And actually, maybe they won't even get into that. But here we go. Well, let's finish this. Since Trump announced he would engage in serious negotiations with Iranian leaders to place limits on Iran's nuclear program, an intense battle is being waged between the president's more loyal supporters who favor diplomatic engagement with countries like Iran, Russia, and North Korea, and the more traditional wing of the Republican Party and neocons who don't want to deal with Iran and are instead pushing for war. So some of these battles surfaced before talks began. For example, during the nominating process, when establishmentarians vigorously opposed more restraint-oriented nominees like Tulsi Gabbard and Eldridge Colby. All right, this is the end of the article. What it left out that I thought it would probably include in there is there were, obviously, I guess it's alleged, we'll find out, but I guess supposedly Walls was also, and I think this was after his first issue, his first fucking stupid Signalgate thing, where he put the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic into the Signal chat, which it still astounds me that guy didn't get fired on the fucking spot. Like, if anything, not even fired, like, probably should have looked at probably some sort of criminal or something revoked, whether it was, security clearances, something. Because that was just such an insane level of what the fuck. I mean, how do you, like, he tried to play it off like it was oopsies, but, that was one of those ones at such an insane level of like how is that even noopsies? It's unbelievable. And then now you stack it with this, and it left out in this article, which maybe I'll find something for tomorrow, just so we can get in the weeds of trying to verify the info. But I know it's being reported that also Mike Walls was, like I said, allegedly was using some sort of Israeli form of a Signal chat during some of these Signal chat talks. Like I said, I think this was after. I don't know if he was using it at the same time or if this was later after the fact. But the idea being is this version of Signal chat, this Israeli version of Signal, was literally, I guess, capable of taking screenshots essentially of some sort, copying the messages and sending them elsewhere. So essentially, literally sending, almost certainly probably sending these things directly to like Israeli intel or something of the like, or fucking basically straight to Netanyahu. So this is just straight up espionage in the White House. And this guy is he looking at a firing squad? No. Is this guy looking at any criminal time? No. Is he getting any sort of, is he losing any sort of privileges such as like security clearances or anything of the like? No. Is this guy fired? I mean, sort of, not really. He got transferred. So he got transferred. So this is peak government. I mean, I can tell you, I mean, this is one of the situations you'd think someone would get fired and pilloried and, just basically become persona non grata, but no. He's the ambassador for the UN now. So he gets a cushy bureaucratic job. I really no better picture of the government than this. Just the idea of like, oh, someone, I can't tell you how many times I saw this in the military. Somebody was just fucking dog shit at their job. And you know what they would do? Just keep on a transfer him. Just send him over this unit. Oh, send him over that. Oh, he sucks there too. Who would have fucking guessed? Okay, keep him there for a year. We'll send him another unit, and just until he either does his 20 years and retires, or he decides he's done with the military. This is the way of the government. So it's gross, but it's this is just an insane example of it though, because at least like the examples was giving was usually people just shitty at their job who should have just been fired for incompetence. But no, this guy is basically straight up spying on the president and his cabinet at the highest level. Like, this is a top tier fucking spy. Like, it's insane. Like, this is like probably one of the highest levels of espionage we've probably seen in like, I don't know, aside from maybe was it Pollard, I think was his name, the other guy who I believe during the Clinton administration fucking stole a shitload of stuff. But this one's more distinct because it's literally the president's cabinet, like in the president's cabinet. But yeah, all right. Let's check into his chat, see what you guys have to say. See more people rolling here. See Screwed Up Rebellion, Eddie Grimm. So this is also admitting that Jeffrey Goldberg is an Israeli spy. Good catch. Good catch. Which once again, I'm reminding myself that you sent me DMs, so I might have to. I'll scroll through those today, and we'll probably maybe bring up some of those tomorrow that you want me to share. But you need to stop DMing me, start tagging me and stuff. Screwed Up Rebellion. But yeah, that is Jeffrey Goldberg, by the way. For those who aren't aware of who that is, that's the editor-in-chief of the Atlantic that I was referencing earlier. For those who don't recall the name. But yeah, I had that thought as well too, because it was like obviously it's not 100% a confirmation of that, but I mean, 2 plus 2 does equal 4. So, I mean, although maybe that's not the best example because, I mean, that was, I don't know. What logically speaking, that would mean. But, I mean, I don't know. If 2 plus X equals 4, what is 2? I don't know. Even that doesn't work. My point being is it's kind of like, let's be real. Put the dots together. It's not a very hard dot to put together here that that guy's probably an Israeli spy, which I believe he definitely, I mean, come on, Berg. But then also on top of that, and there has been a lot in his reporting over the years. From my recollection, that I'm aware of, that he's been a super duper duper Zionist. So, surprised? No, I am not. All right, let's go ahead and get into the next story. He goes, says Trump may walk U.S. back from Ukraine-Russia talks, which I brought this up because we talked about this the other day. And, I mean, I believe he's made these kind of statements like this before. But, this is kind of what I'm talking about with the idea of we're going to walk away. And we got to have this dramatic walk away. But what does this walk away look like? It looks like, we're still going to be funding them, and we're actually going to be further entrenched into their favor with the stupid mineral deal and other similar things. So, remember, you guys remember? Yeah, because I remember about I don't remember even how many months ago this was when we were old Trumpy Poo coming in, and he was campaigning on, we're going to fix the whole Russia-Ukraine thing, on day one and all that nonsense. And, no, here we are. We were all worried about World War III, and everyone said, you really got to vote for this guy. You can't vote for that dumb black bitch. It's the most important election ever because we're going to go to World War III if we don't get Trump in there. So here we go. I mean, don't be wrong. I still don't think we're going to get World War III. It seems like it's just naturally petering out on its own. But as I kind of ranted about the other day, I said yesterday, I meant Friday. As I kind of ranted about on Friday, it's like this seems like the best method to try and slow drain every little last drop you possibly can feasibly out of this conflict. That's what this looks like to me. So I might be wrong, but let's see if there's anything worthwhile in here. Interview with Meet the Press host Kristen Walker asked the president how close Ukraine and Russia are coming to agreement. I do believe we're closer with one party and maybe not as close with the other, but we'll have to see, Trump replied. 5,000 soldiers a week on average are dying. They're not American soldiers, but I want to solve the problem. She later pressed him to explain when he would give up on trying to end the war. Well, there will be a time when I'll say, okay, keep going, keep being stupid. Maybe it's not possible to do. I'm scrolling through. Okay, there's just some statements he made on this. Last week, President J.D. Vance issued a notably pessimistic tone about the war. It's going to be the Russians. Now, this is a quote of him. Going to be up to the Russians and Ukrainians now that each side knows what the other's terms for peace are. It's going to be up to them to come to agreement and stop this brutal conflict, he added. It's not going anywhere. It's not going to end anytime soon. Which I did want to make a little note. I don't remember where I read this at, but I was reading somewhere that supposedly it's being reported that J.D. Vance, I guess, after the fact, sort of tried to repair the image of Walls. Essentially the idea being, I don't know, maybe after the Signalgate thing, essentially try to bring him back into the good graces. So I don't know. I thought that was interesting. I don't know what to make of that. Obviously, I would need to know more specifics. Maybe maybe it's more to it than that. But I just get the impression because obviously J.D. Vance is the guy. God, what is it, man? I might have to look for. There was a post he made recently too about shitting on Bill Kristol, where he said something like it was. I guess Trump made some sort of post where he looked like, or the White House made some post where he was like the Pope or something. I think J.D. Vance is supposed to be Catholic, so a lot of Catholics got upset, said it was kind of, I don't know, kind of sacrilegious, or whatever, which I guess I kind of agree. That just seemed like kind of in poor taste, I guess. But either way, then Bill Kristol was kind of like, "Oh, J.D. Vance, what do you think of this?" And J.D. Vance is said something along the lines of generally I'm typically okay with humor or jokes, but what I'm really not okay with is people sending our Americans off to die in dumb wars or something like that. The way it was worded, it was just wars in general, but something about there was a way that it was phrased that seemed to, and especially since the context was shitting on Kristol, it seems to imply the wars of old, which I thought interesting considering some of the stuff going on in the administration now, the bombing in Houthi. So it's I don't know, man. You kind of really don't have much ground to stand on here. They're kind of playing this. It almost seemed like they were kind of pointing out the wars of old and going, the thing everyone agrees are bad, like the Iraq war and the like, and be like, oh, look how bad these were. Meanwhile, they're doing dumb shit today. So it's like, I said in that I put out a tweet that said, I guess something along the lines of like, I guess I should be excited that like Peter Thiel's Dick Puppet is like repudiating wars of old, but at the end of the day, it's like kind of too hard to get too psyched up about it when he's not really applying it to today. And they aren't really, they don't seem to be applying it today. And I just do feel like it just feels like the only difference in his administration and neocons of old is window dressing, and then I guess the ability to do things. So because the window dressing is because it's just not palatable, those sort of actions in the past. Not that I'm saying that these guys necessarily want to go, empire build in Iraq or whatever, but they're perfectly fine with bombing the Houthis. They're perfectly fine with what Israel's doing. They're perfectly fine with supplying Ukraine, with endless money. Same being to fucking, like I said, the Israelis. So I don't know what differences are really here. I don't really know. I mean, we're still bogged down in Somalia and so many other places. Okay, you're like, cool. Maybe like, I don't know, put your supposed rhetoric in action. That'd be great. So, by the way, this is from Kyle Anzalone. He's been doing some good work these days. I'll have to get on that at some point. So, but yeah, it's looking like I said, even on Friday. So this is kind of a piggybacking on Friday's message. It's not looking good. It's not looking good for the Russia-Ukraine thing. Although I do think in the long run is petering out. It's just, like I said, this seems like they're intentionally leaving on life support to get whatever they can out of it. All right. Okay. JD Vance waterboarded walls. This is what you said. Wasn't expecting a dump today. Good morning, fellas. Oh yeah, that's right. I did tell you guys recently. So good paying attention, Tommy. I did say recently that I'm going to be more than likely most weeks will be Tuesday through Friday, just given the way my schedule works, and that we don't have Austin picking up days anymore. So this will be more of like a Tuesday Friday show, but with the occasional Mondays I can pick up, and today's one of those. So I was able to pick up today's Monday. I didn't have any work today. Honestly, I think probably more often than not I probably will be picking up the Mondays. So it's just. But it looks like this week I might pick up Friday. So we'll see. It's just a weird week. So, but just generally speaking, Tuesdays through Fridays. But keep an eye open. Keep an eye out on your notifications. Make sure you have that bell. You hit that bell on YouTube. I don't think you got to do that in Rumble. I don't know. All right, let's get into the next story. I guess the Yemenis are now bombing airports in Israel. So obviously I don't support this, but it's kind of like a... Hey, maybe they'll stop fucking around. I don't know. It's been a... I don't know if I've mentioned it, but I know, especially in Dave DeCamp's reporting, he's mentioned it, that the Houthis are pretty resourceful. They're resourceful people. They've found ways with drones and other such, innovative ways, or kind of bootstrapping it type deal. They've found ways to, essentially disproportionately affect larger nations than their size would normally indicate they could. And it looks like another such case. I mean, I know I told you guys, I think we're over 20, by the way, Reaper drones that have been destroyed by the Yemenis. And also, I believe, an F-15 or fighter jet of some sort. I can't remember exact model. I think it was a 15, but they were doing a tow, and I guess the carrier had to evade some sort of attack from the Houthis. And in the evasion, they moved too quickly and knocked over the fighter jet and the tow tractor that was attached to it off the ship. So we've lost almost $1 billion just in assets in that period of time, and now they're already striking at airports. Another thing to be concerned about the Yemenis, and this is actually why the Saudis have stayed out of this so far. Which I think actually, if I recall correctly, I think Trump's actually meeting with the Saudis right now. I believe this is their first meeting in a foreign nation or something right now, something like that, and it's with the Saudis, so there's some sort of symbolism there. Maybe that's a good thing that they're leaning more towards the Saudis than Israel. Obviously, they both kind of suck, but if you got to pick one, I'll pick the Saudis, especially given the current context of things that are going on. And the Saudis have been pretty against what Israel's doing. I mean, I think that at the very least they have to for their people. There's like a certain limit for these people. But point being is there's also the chance that, especially if the Saudis are stupid enough to actually try to get involved in this with us, that they might start bombing their oil fields, because that's actually what stopped the last cataclysm over in Yemen, when they had been dying, essentially the last great genocide before Gaza. And I think Yemen probably has them beat. I don't know the figures off the top of my head. But either way, they're a similar thing. They're essentially being starved to death. Their civilian infrastructure being destroyed, starvation, disease, same stuff we're dealing with over in Israel, which, by the way, I think there was just a little girl who starved to death the other day. So that's awful. Which I think it's the first of like the children or something, but there's been over 50 people who've died from malnutrition. So they're literally starving to death over there. But either way, we have, who knows, maybe the Yemenis will be the Vicky Valancourt here and pull some psycho shit and save them all. Who knows? Once again, I'm not advocating violence, but who knows? Maybe the Yemenis' violence might work out. But anyway, so here's them striking the airport. As I was getting at, too, if the Saudis decide to get involved, they could start bombing their oil fields. So they're kind of in a weird position where they're kind of disproportionately affecting other powers to the way more than people would think so. Like I said, they've cost us $1 billion already. Let's be real. We're not gonna affect any sort of real policy change to them. But all right, let's read through this to get some more details on it. Get some specifics, and then we'll move on. So, missile fired from Yemen struck an access road on the grounds of Israel's Ben Gurion Airport on Sunday, as a heavy U.S. bombing campaign has failed to deter Yemen's Houthis, were officially known as Ansar Allah. According to the Times of Israel, the Israeli military tried multiple times to intercept the missile, but failed. A U.S. terminal high-altitude area defense system that's deployed to Israel also failed to intercept the Yemeni missile. The missile left a crater, and 6 people were injured by the attack, though none of them were seriously hurt. The Houthis have fired a series of missiles and drones at Israel since the Israeli military resumed its genocidal war on Gaza on March 18th, but the Sunday attack marked the first time a Yemeni missile made it past Israel's air defenses. Later on Sunday, Houthi military spokesman Yahya Saree announced the Yemeni force would impose a comprehensive air blockade on Israel by repeatedly targeting airports in the country. He said the move was a response to Israel expanding aggressive operations against Gaza. His announcement came after the Israeli military announced it was calling up tens of thousands of reservists to escalate in Gaza, which we did cover that story last week. Hopefully, which, by the way, I feel really stupid. I couldn't think of the word petition, and thank you to whoever pointed that out in the comments. I couldn't think of the word petition. But yeah, there was a petition that's going around, with these reservists, and I want to say, if I recall correctly, I want to say it was also in the tens of thousands of reservists that were saying they will refuse to go back. So, kind of hoping they put their money where their mouth is, and these people own up to, actually do it. So maybe the violence of the Houthis and then the goodwill of the good people that are in Israel might prevail. Who knows? What a weird combo that could be. But we'll see how this works out. I don't know. I'm not incredibly hopeful, although I have been hearing the news of it seems like Israel really is, like Israelites seem to be kind of over this shit, is at least the actual people going to fight it. So I don't know. I mean, if you can't get people to fight your war, you don't have a war. So, I mean, once again, we'll wait and see, but I don't know. And also the big narrative going around there is, too, they've switched between the cabinet members, like Netanyahu himself just recently kind of made some sort of statement indicating this, and others, particularly Smotrich, but that doesn't mean much. He says awful shit all the time. But the idea is that they're no longer prioritizing the hostages, and now it's about defeating Hamas. And I think that might not go over so well with Israel, considering there are still, a decent amount of hostages out there. And I don't know. I mean, I don't think these people, especially hostages' families, are too particularly keen on it. And I think they've kind of seen throughout this that I don't think it's been a priority throughout. And I think they've realized this. So, all right, let's pop back into chat, see what you guys have to say. Oh, I see you guys dropping a tower here. Oh, by the way, I found out that the most expensive End tower was dropped recently. I believe it was a 12,000 End tower on the Shiloh story or whatever, which I don't think I covered that on here, but that was that let's be real, all of you guys probably know. It's that girl who said said nigger. I'll say the word. I'm not gonna say the N-word. It feels gay to say N-word. Like, I'm a grown up. If I'm especially like referring to something in context, but like that guy said nigger, like, well, there's nothing wrong with that. There's literally nothing wrong with saying that. So it's annoying that they try to convince you that there is something wrong with it. I will say I still stand by this, which to be fair, I guess standing by it would really depend, because how this story was flowed out is that she called this a 5-year-old autistic kid a nigger. and like because he stole some shit from like her diaper bag or something, which little kids shouldn't be stealing stuff from diaper bags, but like assuming he is a 5-year-old, like I think it's inappropriate for adults to be calling children like names in general. Like, and it's not even nigger particularly. Like, I would say it was still not cool if he called him a faggot, or if he called him a fuckface, or a shitface, or a cunt, or any of those things. Screwed up Brian's again, exactly what I'm saying. That's why I say you kind of hedge. I've also seen people that show like, I haven't seen the pictures, but people say this kid did not look 5. Sounds like bullshit. The autistic sounds like bullshit too. Because I guess he was some Somali kid, which I guess they're like well known for fucking scamming some autism system or some shit. But yeah. So it says fine. I say weak little dick white guy all the time in context. Of course, yeah. I don't give a shit. You can say that all you want. I definitely won't threaten violence or get upset about it. That's for damn sure, because it's a word. But yeah, obviously I do think it's inappropriate to be calling children that. I mean, any child, really any names in general. And yeah, generally speaking, and honestly, even too, like, I think it's inappropriate to be calling people that, giving the context. But you're an adult, so like, if you want to name call someone, if you want to call someone a shithead, a fuckface, a cunt, a faggot, any number, a nigger, any number of offensive words, some name calling words. I mean, whatever. I guess it depends on the situation. Generally speaking, probably not the greatest idea. You should probably try to be civil. But I know different situations, people like to name call for whatever. It's not that big of a deal. It's words. We can grow up and move on. This is all fucking silly. But anyways, I forgot what my point was, what I was driving. Oh, I was just trying to explain who the fuck that broad was. And I was kind of going through the chat for, I don't know, what even brought that up in the first place? Oh yeah, the $12,000 end tower. So we're just like, holy shit, that's pretty nice. I don't know if they got it right though. I'd have to go look back, because it's like, if they don't have it in sequential order, it doesn't count. So, but yeah, you shouldn't. I don't think you should be calling children that. All right, the guy had 2 boys, 11 and 9. Okay, now we're getting in the realm where maybe it's a little more appropriate. Let's be real. Like, if my 12-year-old like stole some shit from some woman and then got called some sort of offensive name, I mean, like, it's kind of like, okay. I mean, I'd probably be a little bit upset about it, but it's like, yeah, you shouldn't be stealing shit, dude. Like, I don't know, if like my kids stole something and they're like, they called me a nigger, I'd be like, okay, well, like, you were stealing from them, so like, okay, yeah, maybe that wasn't cool, but like, dude, what the fuck? You were way too old for this. But yeah, 5-year-old, completely inappropriate. Assuming that it was what it was framed as a 5-year-old, yeah, not appropriate. Like, I mean, yeah, I don't know, 5-year-olds do dumb stuff, so they do really, really stupid stuff. So I don't think it's fair to make fun of them. And I mean, whether they're black, white, yellow, whatever, they're children. Like, leave them alone. So, all right, let's go through the chat. Someone says, sounds like you're sane. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I call my own kids. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. My kids, I mean, they'll say it too. They don't care. Like, I mean, it's whatever. I mean, they don't call people that, because they're also smart human beings that go, hey, that would be like kind of fucked up to do. Like, why would I call someone that? Unless you're intentionally trying to offend them. And then that's another thing. So, all right. What's up, Sloppy Toppy? See you in here. What'd it do? All right, let's get into the next story. Oh, sorry, let me scroll over here. Oh yeah, there was more on the Yemen thing I wanted to cover. I forgot. There was kind of I didn't read the whole story. In the story, it goes in there, but Dave kind of makes the point here in a tweet a little more succinctly. So he quote tweeted a tweet of Benjamin Netanyahu's, and it says, it seems like Netanyahu is going to use this Yemeni missile strike to try and get this U.S.-Iran war. And so here we go. Let's go ahead and get in on this tweet Benjamin Netanyahu has posted. Now, he is also essentially, I guess you could say quote tweeting, but it's not. He actually just posted the screenshot of an old tweet or truth or whatever the hell they're called of Donald Trump. And in this, this is that old tweet that we covered in the story that maybe you guys will recall. The one, it says, let nobody be fooled. The 100 attacks being made by Houthi, the sinister mobsters and thugs based in Yemen, or who are hated by the Yemeni people, all emanate from and are created by Iran. It's that tweet. The tweet where he's blaming the stuff that happened over in the Yemeni stuff on Iran. And it was actually not even, I believe it was days, if not like maybe a week or so after, that he then had a statement that said the exact opposite of this. That was like, oh, you wouldn't think they would have it, but they do. They have these, they're able to make weapons, and like saying all this, like, oh, I'm wrong. They actually, the Houthis have their own ability to create weaponry, which they do. So, I mean, and also even if Iran was, it's like, I don't know, we kind of, I mean, I guess you could make the case that like since they were doing the ship stuff, we kind of were able to jump in first. But either way, my point being is like, even if Iran and the Houthis did have some sort of mutual weapon sharing something or other, we attacked them, and at that point, like there was already I don't know. It just makes no sense to me that you're like then going to go, oh, but you get these things from your allies. Like, yeah, that was a known quantity before all of this, theoretically speaking. And that's the same thing any nation does. The same thing argument can be made for anything Israel does, which there's to be fair, that's a fair argument. And this has been the thing that I've noticed. I feel like there's something distinct about this whole, and it's a funny thing is it's hard to even call this one thing because it just keeps moving from one thing to the other. Now they're over in Syria, then Lebanon, then here, then that. But through all of this, that has been the through line that I feel like in the past they've been the powers that be have been less apt to point out to make arguments for things being legitimate military targets because of being essentially allies in some form, whether it be weaponry or cash or something to some other entity. I mean, they've kind of implied it, but I feel like they've been way more overt in these past couple years, I guess, and I feel like that's been kind of distinct, and it just seems like and this one's one more of those examples. The idea of that, like, hey, if this was applied on the other foot, no one would accept this. The idea that you're going to be making any sort of threats or belligerence or implications of attacking Iran due to being associated with the Houthis, even though it's completely nonsensical, is just kind of like, okay, well, I mean, would anyone accept this if this happened to, us? No. As a result of something to do with Israel? No, we wouldn't. So, but Netanyahu's here saying, President Trump is absolutely right. Attacks from the Houthis emanate from Iran. Israel will respond to the Houthi attack against our main airport and at a time and place of our choosing to their Iranian terror masters. So, and also, by the way, a little note, while I don't think it makes it okay, it's my understanding that the Houthis were putting out information to, I don't remember how or to who, but that there was going to be an attack well ahead of time. And I'm assuming that's probably why the casualties were so low. So they just said there were some injuries. So, all right, now let's go back to chat. See what you guys have to say. All right. Boo, boo, boo. Alrighty. All right, scrolling through. All right, that kid seems a lot taller than a 5-year-old. Says Rise of Liberty, yeah, for sure. The food making them grow faster. And if he's 5 and autistic, where the fuck were his parents? Well, I mean, I don't know. Well, assuming the Somali guy, then came up and then started videoing, I'm assuming that the implication is he's a relative. Although, like, the other part of the story that I didn't mention was that he was getting ready for a court date for something pedophilic related or pederast related or something, as if the specificity of which it is matters. I mean, either way, you're still trying to fuck kids. Yeah, so it's like, I don't know, was that one of his kids? I don't know. Although I feel like it was the person videoing and the person's kid were different, but I don't know. I haven't dug much in the story. Personally, I find this to be a gay fucking non-story. I am glad in a certain sense that we are supporting this chick, because I think I agree with that. I think and a lot of people go, oh, look, she got $500,000 for saying nigger, and you're like, that's not a good thing to be incentivized. And like, yeah, sure, if she literally just said nigger and that was what happened in isolation, and she put out a GoFundMe that says, I said nigger, give me money, then like, yeah, that would be like, okay, that would make sense to be like, yo, what the fuck is going on here? But if like someone says nigger in like a debatably appropriate or, actually the appropriateness is even beside the point. It's a word. The idea that we're going to like go ruin someone's lives over it's ridiculous. But okay, so the idea that like she said nigger and then people then created this mob that went after her online, and then she made a post to be like, protect my family. Now, I don't know what that means, if she got fired or what. But yeah, I'm all for that. Hell yeah, fuck them. Like this idea that we're going to like ruin people over this shit, this is stupid. So, yeah, in the same way, I was actually perfectly fine with the fundraising of the, whatever the fuck that dude's name was, the other guy, the black dude that stabbed the guy or whatever. Yeah, I mean, maybe there was an argument to be said that, like, maybe depending on the comments, you could remove it if it was very clear that they were intentionally supporting, murder or something. Because, I mean, I guess the thing was a lot of people talk about the comments and how, like, they'd be like, oh, death to white people and this and that. And, like, Sure, I guess if you can make the argument that like they literally think that this person committed murder and they are intentionally providing his defense to get away with murder, if you could somehow prove that, sure, there's an argument to be made. But if they're just trying to support someone's defense, then theoretically they think they're innocent. So, anyways, I'm rambling now. But yeah, I just think it's kind of a stupid non-story in a sense. Like really, the only reason it got this big is because people freaked out. So I'm kind of glad. Maybe at some point the people that do this dumb shit will realize, like, hey, this stuff's backfiring and, like, this isn't going to work anymore. You're not going to be able to shame people anymore. Like, if you're upset because someone said nigger, go deal with it. Like, and to be fair, there are perfectly appropriate times to be upset for someone using certain times. Like, if someone, called my fucking child like a bitch or something and was, like, yelling at it, or, yeah, there are going to be words. So, like, yeah, it doesn't mean you're okay to just call people whatever, but at the end of the day, you also don't just get to ruin someone's life over that. So, Jeff says, to be fair, he lost track of which kids are his, how many he has, and how old their annoying ages are years ago. All right, scrolling through. Hey, Jose, do you talk to anybody who's still in? I've talked to a few Marines. I got them boys brainwashed as fuck. They just want to go kill something. Well, luckily, I wasn't ever a combat guy, so... I mean, like, at a certain point in time, I would have said, and unfortunately, because I actually did want to fucking, when I joined, I was young, dumb, full, and cum, and wanted to fucking kill people. So I was like, I wanted to go special forces, do all sorts of crazy shit. Luckily, my fucking shit vision kind of restricted me. When I joined the military, I signed up for SEER, because it was the only, like, sort of spec ops thing I could even do with my shit vision. Because, funny enough, I actually trained for combat control for, like, well over 6 months, got in stupid good shape. Was swimming, running like every day, was doing like over 30 pull-ups in a minute. Like, I was in insane good shape. And then like one day I came in and I wore to my recruiter's office and I wore glasses every fucking time. Like, I didn't wear my contacts that much at that point in time. And he was like, oh shit, I just realized you had glasses. I didn't even think about it. Yeah, you can't be a combat controller. You have to have like a certain, which is, I guess, luckily I didn't, because I mean, I might have ended up there. I ended up failing SEER too. But even if SEER was like a survival instructor thing. So, point being is, and then I ended up being a mechanic. So I've been a mechanic the entire time. Just kind of a Joe Schmo job. So I wouldn't say they're brainwashed. I don't know. If anything, like, it's these people, like, when you're talking about people that are involved in like a rote type of normal jobs that you would find on the outside, like aircraft mechanics or, jet mechanics, just stuff of that, like, these sorts of jobs, if anything, the issue is probably that you're too far away from it to... I mean, hell, even then, like, I worked on... the jets that I worked on were the refuelers. So even then, like, they're not even the ones killing people. They're the ones refueling things that kill people. So it's kind of pretty easy to separate yourself from it. And if anything, that's the issue. Because it's like, for these guys, it's like... It's far more abstract, the harm that we're doing. So... you're just doing a job. You're just changing out aircraft tires. You're towing jets. You're doing inspections. Like, it doesn't feel like like you're contributing to a entity that murders people. So whereas when you're the one murdering people, it's a little bit harder to get away from that fact. So, and like, that's, if anything, that's the siren song that happens. Oh, just a normal job, no big deal. So. Free speech period, says Marnamac. Hell yeah. Yeah, someone says the fact that the nigger towers and the Give Send Go donation comments was impressive. Sure. Yeah, what is a pedo doing at a playground with a camera? Exactly. Yeah, I don't know. So, say what's up. Let's see, somebody else joining us. All right. Just scrolling through these. Maybe because all Marines are technically able to combat deploy. I get it with mechanics, but our mechanics want to kill shit too. Yeah, that's my understanding is, because, yeah, I mean, the thing is in the Air Force, it's not this, I guess in the Army and Marines particularly, from my understanding from guys who are in, is that they are, like, their combat job and then, like, their other job as well. So, like, they're always basically both. I don't understand how that would even work with my job, because it's like, I don't know, why the fuck would you send a aircraft mechanic to combat? Like, it just wouldn't make sense. But either way, I don't know. That's my understanding, is that these guys do go to combat or something too. That they're always trying to combat it, but it's just a different vibe. They're far more like combat first, and whatever their fucking MOS is second. Is my understanding. So, but yeah, in the Air Force, it's far more like whatever your job is. So yeah, I guess if you had a combat job, which even then in the Air Force, those are pretty. There's not a ton of people that have combat jobs. Just how the Air Force is. It's not like we have an infantry. So yeah. It's very different, but all right. Let's get into the next story. All right. I know my buddy Tyler recently covered this, what is it, the whole bill that was being passed in the GOP. Well, I guess that got pulled, but I did want to take a moment to highlight because I feel like there's some positive things to be said here. I will say maybe it kind of also shows how these guys are a little bit retarded in a sense. But yeah, here you go. Here's the post from, what's this, WLSAM, some radio station, saying bill pulled as GOP defends right to boycott Israel. Now, let's see. Actually, let's go ahead and go. Let's just, instead of reading the article, let's show this. Here's Charlie Kirk saying the vote. Tomorrow, the House will vote on H.R. 867, a bill that will criminalize private boycotts of Israel, fines up to $1 million in prison time up to 20 years. Bills like this only create more anti-Semitism and play into growing narratives that Israel is running the U.S. government. In America, you are allowed to hold differing views. You are allowed to disagree and protest. We've allowed far too many people who hate America move here from abroad, but the right to speak freely is a birthright of all Americans. This bill should not pass. Any Republican that votes for this bill will expose themselves. We will be watching very closely. Now, as I was starting to say, but I think I kind of slipped my mind, my buddy Tyler Yankee over at Libertarian Podcast Review recently, actually I think last night, covered this. I watched it last night. I think my general understanding after watching it is essentially that, what was I going to say? That, God, I had a complete brain fart there. That, why the fuck am I? Oh, that essentially this only applies to like very specific things, which obviously I disagree with, and I think, Tyler disagrees with as well. But the point being is this I guess it was an extension of a previous one. We'll even, see here, it says Mark Levin points out, you don't know what you're talking about, Charlie. This bill merely extends the Anti-Boycott Act of 2018 signed by Trump to international organizations. What causes anti-Semitism is anti-Semites, bigots, Jew haters. They don't need excuses to stay here. Your post is absurd. Which Charlie's right, but also he is kind of wrong in a sense too, and that like Levin is correct. This is, I guess, an old thing that is, I guess now he's saying it's only going to apply it. So this law is already in effect, but now it's only more specifically going to affect international organizations, is my understanding. So obviously not a fan of it, generally speaking, but this is more specifically in the realm of commerce and for international organizations. So not private speech, which I still have an issue with this. But so I'm glad this got pulled because it did get pulled, but I am kind of like, I was a little bit like, once I realized like, oh shit, and seeing, the certain people kind of coming to bat for this, it kind of made me wonder like, oh no, is this almost going to make us look stupid type deal? You know what I mean? Like, and also it's like one of these things where like, oh really? This is like, now we're really digging our feet in. Like, I don't know where was. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm incorrect. Maybe Charlie Kirk was there when the IHRA thing was getting pushed. Because that matters far more, in my opinion, the IHRA thing. Now we're going to define anti-Semitism legally speaking, and we're going to define it as, one of the IHRA examples being, pointing out dual loyalty or things like any sort of criticism of Israel. These being examples used for an IHRA working definition, which is the International Holocaust Remembrance Association. There you go. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know where they were, but it's just kind of like, oh, now everyone's so, oh no, we gotta stop this. Which, like, yeah, stop it. That's great. But it just seems like, it's just weird. It's like all this energy for like something that's kind of really not a big deal, legally speaking. Once again, glad it's gone. But it's kind of like, I guess it almost seems like shit. If this had kept going, this could have just been like a way to be like, make you look stupid. Maybe not. I mean, also, like, let's be real. Maybe this is, I don't know if it's even better, the idea that like, oh, this just extends some other shit. You're like, okay, well, that's worse because this was signed by Trump before. So this isn't better. This is worse, I would think. But obviously, we would have to get into the specifics of the Anti-Boycott Act of 2018. But even then, it's talking about commercial language. So it's not talking about individuals. I'm still not okay with it. The idea that if you, as a, in a sense of commerce, want to come together and go, hey, our businesses are going to group together and not sell to this, I think that should be perfectly appropriate. So it's kind of gross. That's not the case. And Trump was the one who signed it initially. So is what it seems like. So, but I just want to take a moment to kind of point out some of the other people who, we see Thomas Massey coming to the fore here. Voting no on this, and then Marjorie Taylor Greene. So pretty good names coming out for this. Marjorie Taylor Greene saying she'll be voting no for this, saying it's my job to defend Americans' rights to buy or boycott whomever they choose, without the government harshly fining or imprisoning them. What I don't understand is why we are voting on a bill on behalf of other countries and not the president's executive orders that are for our country. So, okay, I don't even know what she's referring to with the executive order. If I had to guess, probably some gay-ass immigration shit. So, obviously, like, oh, herder immigration, which is like, okay, cool, whatever. But either way, okay, cool. This isn't happening, but this is a thing that was thrown out, and I think it's worth mentioning because too, it's also like I don't know, like maybe there's the dam's breaking a little bit, so now we're getting these people that are on the fringes. Obviously, I wouldn't say Massey's on the fringe, but like the Taylor Greens, she rides that line of like the Israel stuff, and then kind of going away around along with some of it. Like I don't know exactly what her stances were on some of the IRHRA and some of the other crazy stuff they've passed in the past, but it's good to see her coming out on this. And then also, as I said, Charlie Kirk, him being kind of a fencer in that sense, very much someone who very much puts the deep dick of Israel all the way back to the throat. So yeah, I mean it's good to. I think maybe there's some positives to be had here. That judging by the characters coming out here, I think maybe it's kind of showing that maybe there's some of the more smart political actors are kind of seeing how the winds are blowing and going, oh shit, I need to kind of get back on with this whole actual liberty game. I can't be this fake thing that everyone else kind of knows I am at this point. All right, let's go ahead and go through the chat real quick. All right. Bugfight says, don't discount all the good you guys did for retarded ladyboys in Pakistan. 100%. Yeah. Yep. See, Marine Corps, every Marine is a rifleman. Exactly. Yep. All right, scrolling through. Too much noticing going on, says Real John Doe. It kind of seems like it, right? That's kind of like maybe some takeaway you could get from this story. Rise to Liberty says, what's interesting to everyone expects Trump to be amongst the people who notice. Yeah, he's a guy in his 70s and part of the people who haven't noticed. So noticing is relatively new. Yeah, which I do try to, like, in my analysis of, like, Trump and Trump stuff, I try to not just be like, fuck you. But it is also, like, it's hard to not remember, to not forget he is just a stupid old boomer. So it's like, I don't know. He could just be a retarded fucking boomer. That's not outside the realm of possibility whatsoever. Oh, hey, here's Tyler. What's up? Yeah, they're just going to name the bill the American Freedom Act or something, says Mark Newcomb. Yeah. All right, let's get into the next one. All right, this is once again kind of a piggybacking off of a previous story. I kind of shit on Dom Lucra recently. Well, not shit. I guess it kind of was just, look, hey, this guy's talking in the White House. He got invited to come to the White House. Let's see what he has to say. I think he had a fairly decent question and kind of got a little bit of a rant and kind of how the new media is being formed. Well, here we have Dom Lucra, this, the guy I talked about, last week. Says, I'm considering going to Israel for the first time in my life. I never thought I'd say these words. These last few days of racial division has completely changed my mind about reality. Now, if you know anything about this Dom guy, that's fucking retarded. Like, he's never been someone to be upset about racial division. He's perfectly fine grifting off whatever the thing is. But yeah, and then we have Dominic Michael Trappi under here, which I don't really know much about him, but he says there's a scheduled trip planned to Israel in June being coordinated by the White House that includes people like DC Drano. You were just there last week, so that adds up. So point being, and actually we covered this last week, someone posted below the Bobby Lee thing. Now bear in mind, we watched that Bobby Lee thing, and Bobby Lee in here is saying that, like, oh, they make you tweet positive things about Israel, and like, like all this shit, and he's saying like literally every day. Like, so now we have all these media people, the new media, like the new group, the new White House group, let's be real, most of them are probably against some sort of trip to Israel. So, yeah, like I shared, I shared this with my buddy, something Top posted and said, let me see if I can find it. So the new generation of media scum are being birthed into their final forms. So like a monarch coming out of a chrysalis. Here these fucking losers are. They're going to go put their hand on the wall and fucking assume control. So... But yeah, it is wild that he spun this to go cry at the wall. And also on top of this too, I don't know what the specifics on Dom's situation is, but here's my buddy Top. He, because I was replying that stuff where I found this too before, was to some video he posted of Dom and some other guy. I believe he's the Fresh and Fit guy. I don't really know enough about him, but I guess they have some fucking producer guy, which is bizarre because I thought Myron Gaines worked with these guys, and he's kind of usually pretty hard against the Israel stuff and like goes pretty hard in the paint. But I don't know. This video I feel like is kind of telling, especially if you are familiar with Dom and even like kind of the circles. I mean, once again, I don't know enough about this other guy. I don't even know his name. I know he works with Myron Gaines like in Fresh and Fit or something, and I'm judging like pretty anti-Israel, pretty red pill, kind of fuck women, this that like. So like just watch the energy here in this interaction between the him and his producer. And I don't know if Dom works for them now too or something. It almost seems that way, but it's I'm just saying, you get to a certain level, then you get certain people in certain areas where they're in control. Also, don't discount the fact that I believe Myron was some sort of former Fed of some sort. Was it NSA or some shit? So, all right, let's go and play this.
I wouldn't do a podcast with Ye right now unless I'm screaming at him. Bro. Would you do a podcast with Ye?
I will only know.
Listen, I will not go in the room with that nigga, bro.
Would you do a podcast with Ye?
My favorite in 2025, I couldn't. I'm still trying to build.
Okay.
All right, now that on its face is just insane. Like I get it, the whole idea. Especially if you know who these two people are. Obviously, once again, I don't know as much about the Fresh and Fit guy. Know more about Dom. The idea that Dom was like, I wouldn't do content with Ye, is insane, and I think it really kind of gets at what I'm getting at. Because if you know the kind of creature that Dom is, he's not someone who goes. He literally did a fucking documentary on the tunnels, the Jew tunnels thing, and he fucking did a fucking trash job. It was junk. It was just literally just nice cameras and walking around in the subways and be like, oh my God, can you believe? Look at this, look at that. And like, yeah, homeless people live down here, you dumb fuck. Which don't get me wrong, I'm someone who did, I think there might have been something to the whole Jew tunnel story. It's just that then this fucking clown then goes and makes it look ridiculous. I'm not saying that was on purpose. Actually, I think that was exactly the opposite. I think he's just a fucking idiot because I actually kind of know some of the people who tried to put that project together. Don't think that was the intention whatsoever. Holy shit, I just realized, I don't know, whoa. What the fuck? I am not someone to get caught up in numerology. Someone needs to tell me what the fuck GG33 is. Because that caught my eye just a second ago. What is 3? Because 33, obviously. And if you look at it, all right, not to go down a weird rabbit hole, but Dom, he's one of those guys that has that weird, I don't know if he was a rapper or what, but he kind of came up through those weird rap circles that have weird satanic components and like kind of Illuminati components. It's weird. I'd have to go dig through some stuff to find it. This is like old stuff. I remember like BX, I think, was once showing me this forever ago, or maybe it was Dana Duda. Somebody was showing like how he kind of came up through the ranks as he came up through some sort of group, literally bragged about being Illuminati and all sorts of weird, not saying he is Illuminati, just saying it's some dumb fucking dumb nignog shit. You know what I mean? Like but I wouldn't be surprised if there's some level of like of blackmail or oath making or something like that, some sort of way in which you're building a relationship and whatever the fuck that was with Dom. He had some sort of weird come-up-age. But yeah, my point that he's not going to work with Ye is like that's a huge red flag to me, considering the kind of shit he does. So it almost seems like the call was made that like, hey, nobody works with Kanye. Which, by the way, I'm going to throw it out there. I would work with Kanye in a fucking heartbeat. Do I really particularly care to? Nah, not really. I mean, I guess it'd be cool. I don't really have anything particularly I really even want to talk to him about, but like, I'd be fucking... This whole like, oh, I'm building right now. Like, what do you mean you're building? What are you going to get ruined by? Like, this is a new age. The idea that you're going to get ruined by having Ye on is fucking retarded. We just had someone make $500,000 out for saying nigger, and you think you're going to get ruined for having Ye, like, or doing content with Ye. No, you're not. You're going to get blown into the fucking stratosphere. What is happening is it seems like you're somehow controlled, is what it seems like, because that just does not make it sense at all for Dom to take the position, oh, I wouldn't work with Ye right now. No. But let's keep watching this.
Okay, none of us would do anything with Ye right now. Now,
also I'm going to put this, I just moved up to 1.25. I'm actually going to put it back down to normal because I want you guys to also try to pick up. I just feel like these two feel uncomfortable. This feels uncomfortable. This feels like a struggle session. So let's go and play this.
I'm the king here of TikTok. This guy over here has more followers than you, Sneeko, and Nick combined on Twitter. So, again...
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention this was also off of this was being upset about this whole rant that he's about to have is upset that Ye met with like Sneeko and somebody else. So it's just this gay, which kind of adds to the context of it. Just seems like this weird struggle session. Like, look, I got these people right here and they're not going to work with Ye. Why are you guys working? Like, this is what it feels like. This feels gross. This feels like, oh, you guys are looking at Ye. Oh, you guys are shut out now. Like, that's what it feels like. This feels like some weird manipulation, high-level games going on here. I think he's going to fail at it. It's fucking stupid because no one gives a fuck about Myron Games' fucking co-host or this fucking retard right here, Dom. He's fucking completely artificial and a joke. But all right, let's keep playing this.
And this guy is the most connected person if he gets his IG back, which he will. If he gets his YouTube back, monetized, which he will, he's going to surpass you guys like that. So at the end of the day, I want you to understand, we have 3 people here who are telling you they would do nothing with Kanye West right now. And by the way, that would have been crazy to say 18 months ago.
Hell yeah. Yeah.
You doing something with Kanye, you on the map 18 months ago.
Yep.
How things change. But this is my point I'm trying to make. He can't reach out to anybody. No one wants to deal with him. And then he finally decided to reach out to his 2 sides. Okay?
Yeah.
And his 2 sides went all the way to Spade to meet this guy. A guy who admitted to sucking off a 60-year-old.
Oh, shit.
A guy.
Which they find it interesting he evoked this because we all talked about recently, like, what is going on with this whole, this, because there was that weird video that, I mean, hell, we had lots of fun with it on Tire Gang, on Already Dead, may have done on the morning show as well. The one song that Kanye released about how him and his cousin were essentially blowing each other as kids. And people are going like, what the hell? And it's like, honestly, I don't know what's going on here, but it's just weird that like, oh, now this guy's evoking. So it just seems like, I don't know. We see this sort of crackdown of whatever this is. I'm like, I don't know. Maybe there's something going on behind the scenes that I'm not seeing. I mean, the idea that like Kanye would release a song about him blowing his cousin is just kind of like the only thing I can go to is that like he has a feeling that there's some sort of blackmail coming or something getting ahead of it. That's the only thing that makes sense. So, which by the way, I've talked about this many times. I don't necessarily know. I'm not saying Kanye is some sort of, positive actor. The impression I get is that he's like he is some sort of, he's definitely wavers back and forth. I think there's some times where he's on message and lucid and not being controlled. But then I think there's sometimes like when he's running around with his new wife and having her butt and like boobs and everything out everywhere to everyone. Yeah, I think that's they got Ye back on the pills, or he's being controlled, or or he's working out with Pasternak again, or whatever. When you see that sort of shit. But I do get the impression that sometimes he goes off reservation, and I think these sort of behaviors we're seeing here are the sort of things that are meant to inculcate against such going off reservation. So I don't know. I do think maybe there's something to this, sucking off his cousin thing, and like there being some sort of get ahead of it. And now you see these people evoke it. It kind of comes off weak, then now that he's already mentioned it, because it's like every one of us knows that, like, he's talking about sucking off a 6-year-old, and you're like, okay, well, like, but when he was a kid, how old was he? I don't know how old he was when then. That's another key point that I don't think I ever looked into, because obviously he said 6. I don't know how old Ye was at that time, but it's like if they were both children, it was like, I mean, obviously I'm not suggesting kids go do that, but it's like, kids, I don't know, weird. They were both kids. It was weird, like whatever. So I feel like it kind of falls flat when you see it being thrown out like this as like literally trying to impugn his character. Because it's like, dude, he literally admitted it to the world. Like, yeah, we can all joke and be like, yo, what the fuck? How are you like telling everyone about this? But kind of hard to use it as a character attack in this context when it's something that he admitted. And like, let's be real, we all know the context. So I don't know. It makes you almost think like, was this intended as being something that came out and framed in an entirely different way? I don't know. But let's keep playing.
Who admitted that he's a sexual degenerate. Nope. And you guys, a Muslim over here who tells...
All right, admitted he's a sexual degenerate. I would, I don't know anything about the Fresh and Fit guy, really, so I don't fucking know. Who knows? Maybe he's a normal guy. I don't know really any about this dude right here. But fucking Don, let's be real. That dude has got to be into some weird fucking shit. So I'd hazard to put money on that shit. He's a degenerate. So, but
people he fights against degeneracy, and we got a Christian over here who tells you he's all righteous, and they are going to a gay man's house when he calls like that on call. Halfway.
All right. Let's get back in the chat. See what you guys say. All right, Lord Ronnie Trotter said, the first time I was racially abused, I didn't even know what it was or that I should be offended only by the way they said it and the way they reacted to it. Yeah, the funny thing is the first time I actually ever said it, well, maybe it wasn't the first time, but I remember I had a little black friend and I called them a nigger when I was a little kid and I didn't know what it meant. I just knew someone used it to say it to another, like, I'd known the context was to use it against black or something. Like, I was a child. I didn't really know. And I don't remember why. I don't even think I was really even mad at him. I think it was just kind of like a goofing around type thing. He was my buddy, and I called him a nigger, and then like the tone entirely changed. And then I remember being like, "What did I do?" And then like looked at it later when I got home. I felt so fucking bad because he like, and to me, I think I apologized or something because I felt really bad. I was like, "Oh no, man, I didn't mean like I'm sorry." Because it's like, yeah, while I do say the words, like I did say, I have like all I'm like. I'm not going around like I'm not being like I don't know, like if someone's perfectly being fine in the world, like I'm not like I don't know, yeah, sure, if someone stole some shit from me or like really or got in a fight or I could imagine a scenario in which I would call a black man a nigger, but like for the most part, like I don't know, I'm a civil human being that doesn't do that. I like like because that's kind of fucked up to do. But yeah, I can imagine scenarios, but I'd have to be pretty aggrieved for me to resort to that. So, and yeah, I mean, but anyways, it just is, yeah, it is kind of funny how these things happen, I guess. But yeah, I felt really bad about it. I still feel bad when I think about it because it was like I know he thought I meant something really fucking like that. Like I was just goofing with him. So, yeah. Anyways, let's see what you guys have to say. All right. Yeah, Top crushed it with that quote tweet. Yeah, Gary's a number guy, retarded Jewish satanic numerologist, says Mark Newcomb, perhaps. Said fresh left black guy is a 70 IQ Haitian. He's more of a Kamala Harris opportunist with no actual opinions of his own. Okay. Okay, well, you guys know more about this guy than I do. One side. Okay, Jose, have you been cleeping on Gary the numbers? I don't know anything about this guy, so... I mean, I know he's like their producer. I don't really pay attention to this stuff. Honestly, it's all kind of gay to me there. All right, scrolling through. Oh, GG33 is Gary the Numbers Guy logo, but it's faggotry. Okay, so I guess it's his hat. Still kind of gay. He leans into it, but so when I was a kid and going to school, I never hated another kid because their skin color was friends with everyone. Nowadays, you got terrible parents teaching their children to hate. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I mean, my kids have all, they're, maybe, I guess it depends. If you're saying just because, like, which I'm not even saying you're saying that, if it's because of, like, words or something, I think the newer generation is, at least for me, my opinion, for my children, like, they don't actually hate any race. They've had plenty of, different race friends and stuff. But, like, they also are not, like, when it comes to words, like, they're very different they're not, like, what's the word? They're not playing these stupid games anymore. Essentially, is the idea. Like, so there's far more. I do hear people saying things like the N-word and stuff, but it's like never. From my understanding, it's very rarely. I mean, sometimes there's shitty kids who are doing it literally to be shitty, but most time it's like retarded boys just yelling it in the hallways or running by just because they think it's funny. It's just the idea that they're not allowing this thing of like, oh, we can't say certain words anymore. If anything, it seems like they're rebelling against it. So. Which makes sense. I mean, I know as much as people want to get upset and go, oh, that's that. Like, it's a double standard, and I don't think people are going to accept it. And you may say it's petty and it's not that big of a deal, and yeah, I kind of agree. But at the same time, good luck getting entire people to go along with that. So, yeah, the idea that like a double standard about some word. So, and then, yeah, but yeah. Anyways, let's keep going. So, but yeah, someone says they really dislike that numerology faggot. Yeah, I mean, I guess he sucks. I don't know. So, yeah, and then you see the saying once again, no one's ever raced me, and it wasn't really a thing. Yeah, it's the same thing, too. I mean, I don't know when you grew up, Trotner, but that was kind of my experience growing up. It seemed like maybe like after is when it really came in. It's like everyone was pretty chill, but I also lived in Maine and Tennessee where we had like both schools I was in had like single-digit black dudes, so I don't fucking know. It's not really. I can't really. It's not the greatest example. It's also like we weren't used to them. Although I will say, when I was in Maine, the difference between Maine and Tennessee, I did notice a slight difference. While they had the same amount, because I was kind of pointing at the idea of like the demographic being smaller. There was the same demographic in Maine and Tennessee, but I personally, maybe I was just younger, this is very anecdotal, I felt like there was less of a race thing. Like, it wasn't even a thing. Whereas in Tennessee, there was some of that. Some of them were pretty fucked up to the black kid. I mean, don't get me wrong, some of it was kind of funny, but it was pretty fucked up. So, but yeah, so he got teased a lot because he was like I think one of like 2 black guys that was at the school. So, yeah. Scrolling a little Jose, but mom, that is my bicycle. So, all right, just going through. All right, man, you guys are chit chatting a lot. Lots of towers. Born in '94. I didn't grow up with any black kids either, to be fair. Okay. All right, so you're 3 years younger than me. So yeah, I guess we had around the same time. Yeah, that was my impression too. But like I said, not a lot of black kids. But I felt it did feel, even for that being the case, even in Maine, it felt like less, whereas in the South there was some, I don't know. It's completely anecdotal, and I'm rambling now. So let's get into another topic. This is what the inspiration for the thumbnail was. This goofy-headed fuck with the fucking hairline that's hanging out in the back of his head, basically. Old Dan Bongino. This is from Ken Silva. It says, did you know that Dan Bongino quit the Secret Service in May 2011, just weeks after his brother Joe Bongino and other agents were caught partying with Colombian prostitutes? Also, here's a totally unrelated picture of the current FBI director and a sex trafficking Chinese intelligence operative. So was this Fang Fang or whatever, or Cindy Yang, or I don't know, whatever. So this is, which to be fair, and once again, I don't think, and I don't even think Ken is necessarily saying that, but the picture might not be fair. I'd need no context. So there's all sorts of pictures of people with, political figures or large figures with people that then later go, oh shit, like, look, here's a picture of them with this person. It doesn't mean anything. So, but I mean, his brother being busted with prostitutes, that means something to me, that's for sure. And it really plays off of a theme that me and Austin have been, kind of playing with for a long time. The idea of, really, you can't trust any of these fucking Secret Service fucks. You can't. I mean, when it comes to these elites, when you read the book, like say a book like Eye of the Chicken Hawk, and you're like, look at the awful things that are going on at like fairly high levels. A lot of these were kind of elite figures, financial, influential, whatever. And now you got to think like, how do these certain things work? And you did notice when you're reading Eye of the Chicken Hawk, or just kind of looking into this topic in general, you see it's very common that drivers play a key part in this. Like I believe Seville's drivers played a huge part in his some of his things, implied, and many others. The drivers is the big thing. Is like they literally have like hell, even the Dutroux affair. Well, I believe Dutroux was one of the drivers, along with some other group of people. So they also operate as the drivers. So it's almost as if the drivers are this other entity that procures children and does all sorts of things. Almost like a cult of finders, if you will. So point being is it almost seems like there's something going on there. So, but why I mentioned this in relation to the Secret Service is you got to think about like when it comes to transportation. If you are an elite that's doing awful, awful, awful things like satanic ritual abuse or child trafficking or whatever, there are probably 2 main entities of yours that need to be cool, essentially. Like, hey, they need to get cool real quick type deal. And that's going to be your transportation, and that's going to be your protection. And now Dan Bongino fits protection. Now, I will say, sure, like there's probably maybe certain levels like of this, if you got out after one, I don't know if they do. I'm assuming they probably do some sort of contracts. That's how most military jobs like this work. So I don't know, 3, 4, 6, 8-year contracts, something like that. If you bounce after your first contract, and let's be real, you probably worked like on the lower rung, kind of guarding generals or whatever, cabinet members, maybe nothing too crazy, kind of lower level stuff. But I think there probably comes a certain point where like, let's be real, you're getting to a high level, you're the dude, going on the Lolita Express and shit like that. Like, I don't know what that level that is, but it's like, if you're someone who's like, oh yeah, I fucking retired from the Secret Service, it's like, okay, dude, I'm a little bit sketched. Which I guess, to be fair, I mean, it's probably, I don't know enough about the Secret Service. Who knows about all the different assignments they get put on. It could be not that big of a deal. It could be, maybe it's not that many of them. But boy, oh boy, I don't trust these fucks. And so when you see somebody like a Dan Bongino, what is he running? The FBI, and I think he's running the ATF now, too. And yeah, this is the guy running it. And, the guy who's supposed to help hook us up with the Epstein thing, which, by the way, apparently they just recently said that they have no timetable for that. That was the White House announced that. So don't expect this anytime soon. And here's kind of an example of why. And let's be real, these Secret Service agents have been busted many times in these sort of scandals, with prostitutes and the like. So it only kind of makes you wonder what the hell is going on that they're not getting busted for, and particularly in relation to the people they're working for. So all right, let's read this real quick. A little excerpt to kind of back up the prostitution thing. So he was on the team that made some bad decisions, but multiple witnesses have said he was not part of the prostitution, Bongino said. He is not part of the prostitution investigation. Bongino said that his brother has given statements as part of the investigation. When HuffPost asked why Bongino hadn't mentioned his brother was there, Bongino said, "It's not my place. Besides," he said, "nobody asked. If someone asked, I certainly would have said it," Bongino said. "It's not my place to give up those names." Okay, just referring to his brother's situation. But either way, I find it interesting that, also Bongino too, I believe it was like right around the time he joined, and it feels like almost some nonsense for goodwill. He was going on about how one of his Secret Service buddies got fired from one of the, I believe when he was watching Clinton or something, not fired. He got, just like Walls, he got transferred for being not okay with some weirdness. Essentially, he said he didn't see anything specific, but that they were young-ish looking girls. Said he wasn't comfortable talking to them after, and they're like, all right, well, then you need to get the fuck out of here. And so they moved him to some other assignment. So many such cases. So, all right, let's scroll through the chat, and then we'll get on to our final topic of the day, because I got to get out of here. I gotta go hang out with the kitty cat. Does it count as someone being racist? They call me a tomahonky. I'm half Native and half Irish. I've never heard that. All right, tomahonky. All right, let's keep going. Let's keep going. Hell yeah, standalone words aren't racist. Cool. I'm glad you clarified that. I like you, Lord Rodney Trotter. You seem cool. All right, let's keep going. See, he says you can say any words you like if you mean someone bad for no reason besides skin color as racism. Yeah, and I do think racism's stupid, but I would also go to, I think you're also perfectly fine to be racist. So, and I'm not even saying you're saying that's otherwise. I'm just using it as a chance to make a point. But yeah, words are just words. You shouldn't use violence over them. I will say, no, there are like fighting words. So like theoretically, like you, Lord Ronnie Trotter, if someone came to you and said, "Fuck you, nigger," right to your face, then you beat the shit out of them. I'd be like, all right, well, those were definitely some fucking fighting words. But now if you are like from across the country and someone says the word and you go, "I'm going to threaten violence," that's ridiculous. But even in that example I gave, when you attack someone for saying that, I'd say you're still technically not in the right, but it's like, like we get it. Like, let's be real. Come on, dude. Like if someone like got in my face, called my wife a bitch, my kid's retarded, whatever, whatever awful things, like certain things, it's like, okay, like, all right, at a certain point, it's like I just kind of, maybe I might still be able to recognize these are just words and you aren't actually attacking me. Certain points, I'm gonna fucking hit you. I mean, I don't know what that line is, and even then, maybe I won't. Maybe I'll keep my head about me and wits about me and go, "This is stupid. I'm going to cause a lot more problems than they're going to solve by this." Just walk away. But there's definitely a scenario in which someone could say words to me and receive these suckers. But I don't know what that would be. It'd have to be something pretty crazy. But it's But what I was driving at is I don't think there's anything wrong. I think people are perfectly within their rights, I guess, supposedly to be racist. I think it's stupid. Now, I will say there's Sowell himself makes a point. There's statistic stuff that he himself, I think the point he made was like a cab or something. And he even said even myself that if I knew nothing absent race and I was in a, foreign area and the only statistic I had was race, of somebody, there's certain races I'm going to prefer depending on what thing I need. I think he was using the example of calling it cab or something. I forget in this example that comes to mind. All you can tell is the person, or I can't remember if you're the cab driver or you're hailing a cab in this scenario. But either way, point being is the isolated factor is this person's race. And sure, I guess you could have preferences at that point because you understand statistics. But honestly, I think it's pretty weak. It's a pretty weak indicator. Because, let's be real. Sure, you can say, look at the crime rates for blacks or this or that. But, generally speaking, if I run into a black dude, the chances of him fitting the stereotype of everything, every negative stat about some race are pretty low. And there's a good chance that maybe that's not the case. And it's also not that much of an opportunity cost for me maybe to take some time to get to know him. Because the example Sowell usually uses is, and you don't really have any sort of chance to get to know them. It's like the most isolated example. And it's just trying to get people to recognize it. Like, yeah, there is other things to take into account. We do discriminate. If you are as this person are walking around and you see someone in, I don't know, if it's late at night and it doesn't even have to be, you might not even be able to ascertain the race. If they're wearing, certain clothing that kind of, baggy clothing and like kind of their hood over and they're walking and kind of, you might go to the other side of the road. And so people discriminate, and it's the same thing. People are aware of statistics, but let's be real. This example's so fucking niche that it's almost fucking useless, because let's be real. Generally speaking, that's not the only factor you're going to know about somebody. Even just looking at someone, you can generally go, okay, like, yeah, they're black, but then you go, okay, but well, he's well dressed. He carries himself well, he's whatever. I think maybe he's a person worthy of interacting with for whatever reason is at hand at the time. So, yeah, it's generally speaking, it's probably one of the worst informative factors you could receive is someone's race. But there's still something to that. So, so it is kind of like you kind of got to push back when people act like it's like non-existence and non-thing. Like, no, it's a thing. Like let's be real. Let's the black folks tend to be a lot better at football than I do. Like there are certain proclivities that certain races have as opposed to others. So, but let's keep going. All right, scrolling through. Fighting words when you tell a liberal their trans friend can't read to your kid. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I agree with that. The words themselves aren't race or offensive. The meaning that someone puts behind them. Exactly. Context is key. Context is so key. Like, so key. This is why I genuinely get upset. Like, maybe it's just like an autism thing, but like if people get upset, like if I'm like literally saying like someone said nigger, it's like, how are you upset about that? I'm literally referring to the word. Like, it's like I'm saying someone else said that, and now if I'm saying it to like be offensive to someone, I can understand someone being like, "Oh, what the fuck? That was kind of messed up, dude. What did he do? Did he do anything to you? No. Well, then that's just shitty." So, all right. Okay. I've traveled fairly extensively. I've come to the realization there's dickheads everywhere in every race of person. You get nice people, nasty people in every country in the world. 100%. All right, let's finish off. I'm hanging out in the chat too long because I need to get out of here. Let's knock out. Well, not knock out. I think we're still going to have another part to this, but let's continue our Dutroux reading. This is from my buddy IRC_NIC on Twitter. That's also his Substack is RIC_NIC. I have no idea what that acronym stands for. It'd probably make it easy to remember if I knew what it is. But either way, highly recommend him. Really great content on Dutroux stuff. He's got great threads, and I believe they might even be pinned, or at least they were in the past. So, but let's go ahead and get into this, and then we'll get out of here. Probably 10, 15 minutes or so, and we'll get out of here. All right, the missing children panic. There's a lot of things I'd like to develop in what I'm calling the missing pieces of the Dutroux case. But for this first entry, I want to focus mostly on the late 80s and the early 90s in Belgium and the rise in missing children cases. Some of these cases were even attributed to Marc Dutroux before he was dismissed because they found out who did it or because there wasn't enough evidence. In 2002, as Michael Brulé, the prosecutor in charge of the Dutroux affair, was gearing up for the trial, he added 11 additional counts to Dutroux and his gang's charges. 11 attempted kidnappings. People that came forward after 96 and accused Dutroux, they were later all dismissed because of lack of evidence, but it goes to show this panic, as some described it, wasn't simply a panic. Many missing children cases went cold or were never fully explained. Some of these kids were lucky enough to escape their kidnappers before being taken away. And so after Dutroux happened, a large number of people decided to come forward and try to get justice. It's entirely possible they weren't kidnapped by Dutroux, and you're bound to have some fake stories popping up from time to time. But it also goes to show that maybe Dutroux was only a cog in a larger system, that Belgium had been underlooking its missing children cases, and that something had to be done to bring light to these cases and change the way they were treated by the cops. So easily dismissed. The main story I want to talk about today gets exactly at that. In November of 95, a young girl named Caroline from Aubais, near Charleroi, is kidnapped by a man in a vehicle and left for dead with her throat cut after being abused. She ended up surviving. The first policeman on the crime scene, a man named Nathuan, is immediately remembered of a case he was dealing with in 1985. He goes on to say this in his report. By the way, I'm pretty sure. By the way, if you do watch this later, IRC and IC, I'm not at all talking shit. If anything, this is what makes you great. I believe, like immediately remembered of a case. You can see that wording is kind of odd. There might be some odd things like that in there because I'm almost certain this guy speaks multiple languages, and the reasoning being is because I have noticed kind of weird syntax things in some of his writings, and just simply the fact that if you are to become someone that actually essentially, I could never become an expert in Dutroux unless the Dutroux affair, unless I learned another language, because essentially I guess I could. Maybe there's other ways I could, some sort of translator or something. But I would be very much fighting. I'd be swimming against the tide, essentially, because the majority, the vast majority of the literature surrounding this is all in French or Belgium or whatever the hell their languages are. I think they have 2 languages in Belgium. So, So it's very, very, very little about this is in English. So this is kind of why, account like this, even the Substack like this is super important, because this guy is one of the few people for us English speakers who's able to kind of distill this information for us, because we're kind of limited in what we can get at. So, all right, let's keep going. This is how Dutroux works. So that's what he said in his report about this, about the young girl situation. He was immediately considered a possible suspect. This is indeed the Dutroux modus operandi for most of his kidnappings in the 80s. He would pick up girls in his van, drug them, either abuse them directly or bring them back to his house, and then drop them off. This is what led to his first arrest in 1986, but the investigation starts to diverge from Dutroux after being passed around and then falling in the lap of super cop Georges Zeikert of the Judiciary Police. For those who aren't familiar, Zeikert was the cop working in car trafficking in Charleroi, and he had multiple informants who were part of the Courcelles gang formed around Dutroux. Now, this gang, the Courcelles gang, is kind of talking about. They were essentially drivers. They were kind of from my understanding, is it seemed like this gang seemed to kind of drive around for certain powerful people. So, car trafficking. So this is kind of what I'm getting at. So surprisingly, this actually kind of ties into our Bongino thing we were talking about, including Gerard Pignon, the man who was hosting Dutroux's accomplice, Bernard Weinstein. Gerard Pignon was a crooked car dealer who owned more than 20 garages, hangars, properties all over Charleroi. Now, Bernard Weinstein, for those who aren't aware, maybe look into it later, he's actually one of the, like you said, the Dutroux's accomplice who literally gets murdered later, likely by Dutroux. Dutroux himself could very well have been an informant for Zeikert, who was accused of working with him and protecting him, and was even arrested for 35 days before Belgian justice cleaned up the mess. More about that later. The protecting Dutroux accusation came in part from his unwillingness to investigate any clue that would lead to Dutroux in Caroline's case. On the Bernard Weinstein, did want to mention when Dutroux killed him, his reasoning was what he claimed why he killed Bernard was because he let the girls die. Well, because I forget which 2 girls it was. Was it F and... I don't know. I always mix up the girls. It's hard to get those straight. But either way, when 2 of the girls were in his dungeon while he was gone and died while he was imprisoned, later when he came back out, I guess he killed Bernard Weinstein, and his reasoning was because he let them starve to death. So, furthermore, in the timeline of the Dutroux affair, we're at the end of November 95. Julie and Melissa would have been alive and kept... Oh, here we go. Julie and Melissa. That's who I was talking about. Would have been alive and kept in Dutroux's dungeon in Marcinelle. René Michaud, the gendarme who was in charge of Operation Othello, a surveillance operation led in secret and solely by the gendarmerie of Charleroi, who were trying to catch Dutroux in the act, had been looking for a way to get into Dutroux's house for weeks now. Later on, when he was interrogated by Belgium's Permanent Control Committee of the Police Forces... about that time period, here's what Michaud had to say. And he said it's basically the police's police, is what they're saying. So, which I guess that would be like IA, Internal Affairs, is what the implication is. So he was interrogated by Internal Affairs, I guess would be the best way to look at it. And this is what he had to say when he was essentially interrogated by what was essentially, Internal Affairs. If I had known that Dutroux was a potential suspect in the events of Obai, which is Caroline's kidnapping and attempted murder, there would have been grounds to look for evidence in the suspect's home for sleeping pills, a knife, or more, and so to draw up a police report and request search warrants. The Committee P was shocked to hear that coming from Michaud's mouth. Michaud was doing everything he could to find a way to request a search warrant, and yet didn't get in contact with Charleroi's Judiciary Police when Dutroux's name immediately came up in Caroline's investigation. And the judiciary police, of course, didn't get in touch with him because the gendarmerie was riding solo and in total secret on Operation Othello. You'd think this guy was doing on purpose at this point. Asking the country's other police services about the man you're putting under surveillance and looking for any way to get inside his house seems logical and very simple, and yet... As a reminder, René Michaud would be the man who'd go on to lead multiple house searches on Dutroux's properties, including the sadly infamous December 13th, 1995 search, where Michaud hears voices in front of Julie and Melissa's cage hidden behind the wall in Dutroux's basement, saying, "Shut up" to his colleagues out loud, making the girls stop talking, only to dismiss the voices as coming from kids playing outside. I believe I've seen it saying silence other places, but obviously, as I mentioned before, different language, so maybe it's just a matter of it's the same thing, basically. But either way, yeah, he yelled silence, and I think the idea being is like, you're able to interpret that as he heard something and he's telling his other investigators to be quiet, but the silence likely probably would have scared the children into being quiet because they were likely being abused like to an insane degree. And so if their captors are telling them, "Hey, shut up," then yeah, they're going to be quiet. So then that's when the sound stopped, and then they just moved on. Not to mention they know they're looking for young girls and a hidden cage of sorts, according to informant tips. And yet Michaud doesn't even knock on the walls trying to locate it, nor does he try to call for someone to bring a camera with him. To top it all, this house search was led by search warrant that was flipped from the Judiciary Police's arrest of Marc Dutroux on December 6th. Michaud having forced the investigating judge to give it to the gendarmerie instead of the judiciary police because they were in charge of Othello. Same thing he could have done a month earlier when Caroline's kidnapping happened if Zycut requested a search warrant based on Dutroux being a suspect. I don't know if they're going to go into this as well, but I believe in his during his whole because his Operation Othello, this was when they were conducting surveillance on the Dutroux domicile. And apparently they were only doing that for like some incredibly limited amount of time. I want to say it was like only like an hour or two a day. And like there were also multiple times where I guess kids even actually like escaped and then got recaptured while they were supposedly conducting the surveillance thing. So the point being is they should have literally been watching. But it almost seems like this Operation Othello was a way to get other agencies to back off to make it look like, hey, we're doing this crazy big surveillance thing. Oh, look, nothing came up. So... When Michel Burlet, who, as I stated previously, the prosecutor in charge of the Dutroux affair, learned about the Aubais fiasco, here's what he had to say to Belgium's Attorney General Elaine Likendale in October of 1996. Beyond the elements included in the 6th of September 1996 report by my colleague from Charleroi, Mr. Marchandis, I can inform you that my astonishment regarding the handling of this case was also based on the fact that DNA analysis had been carried out on 2 suspects of Caroline's kidnapping who were later released, and then not on Dutroux. However, Mr. Dutroux stated that he had agreed to have hair samples taken for him for such an analysis. It should be noted that during the investigation entrusted to the P Committee by my colleague from Charleroi, the investigator from the P Committee found his hair sample in the office of the Judiciary Police Officer in charge of the investigation. Keep in mind whenever you hear about the P Committee, that's essentially internal affairs. I therefore deduce that this sample was never submitted to the expert appointed by the investigating judge. Then recently, the Neufchâteau investigators in charge of the Dutroux case got their hands on a Ford Fiesta vehicle in which, according to my colleague from Charleroi, hairs belonging to the victim of the attack on 22 November 1995 in Aubais were found. Finally, I would add that the statements of Miss Martin, Dutroux's wife, recently received by the Arlon Judiciary Police show that on the day of the assault, Dutroux was in Aubais. I therefore share the opinion of my colleague from Charleroi, and I'm surprised by the manner in which this case was handled, both by the police and the courts, ultimately resulting in dismissal when clearly not all the necessary duties had been carried out. It says, let's stop here for a second before continuing on with Burlet. Here he lays down important points beyond the simple police service wars fuck-up that Michaud seemed to be invoking. At this point, Dutroux's DNA had never been analyzed in regards to Caroline's case. His hair sample was found in the office of the cop leading the investigation, just waiting to be used for the past year. Who's the cop leading the investigation? George Zycut, the handler of the Courcelles gang. So the cop leading the investigation on this one kid that died is the handler of like informants within this Courcelles gang, which is a common theme. Michel, we haven't mentioned him yet in this one, but Michel Nihoul, who Dutroux worked for, he was even supposedly an informant. There were informants that had that like they found out later were saying all sorts of crazy stuff about Dutroux, and yet they somehow still weren't able to act. So, I mean, like, I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly, I think there was an informant that literally went and like cased out kidnapping children or something crazy, and like they still were like, nope, don't get enough. So, a Ford Fiesta was used to kidnap Caroline. So these are the one of the vehicles. Inside, hairs belonging to her were found. Burleigh points this out because of one of the cars used by members of the Courcelles gang, Michel Livière, Bernard Weinstein, Pierre Richaud, either or all, depending on who you ask, was a Ford Fiesta, and many witnesses link that same Ford Fiesta to Julie and Melissa's kidnapping, possibly being the vehicle that was used for it. And then finally, Dutroux's wife places him in Aubais the day of the assault against Caroline. Dutroux was pretty familiar with Aubais, and for a good reason. That's where he grew up. His parents moved there to raise him after coming back from then Belgian Congo, today's Burundi. Okay, shit. He came from the Congo? Okay, I didn't know this about his growing up. That's nuts. Aubais is also the place where Dutroux commits his first kidnapping in 1985 with his then accomplice Jean von Peteghem. Michel Burleigh goes on. I can now state that the combination within the same public prosecutor's office of the Othello Port, the kidnapping file, and the Aubais assault file was bound to lead to an investigation against Dutroux, with a search of his home in Marcinelle. This seems to me all the more dramatic since, in the week preceding Weinstein's death, according to Dutroux's own statements, Weinstein was held captive in the hidden cage located in Dutroux's basement, with Julie and Melissa locked in a room upstairs. If the search had taken place between November 22nd, 95, the date of the Aubais assault, and November 25th, 95, the approximate date of Weinstein's death, it would inevitably have led investigators to discover the presence of Julie and Melissa alive upstairs. The shortcomings of the investigation are so serious that I inevitably come to wonder whether they can be explained solely by negligence or whether Dutroux benefited from protection both from the police and the courts. Mr. Burleigh doesn't mince his words here and gets right to the point. They had everything they needed to search Dutroux's house in November 95 and save Julie and Melissa, whether or not he was responsible for the assault against Caroline. Instead, the fuck-up is so enormous that Burleigh legit wonders if Dutroux isn't being protected by magistrates and the police services hinting at Zykit. Burleigh had been the one who presented Zykit as Dutroux's protector right when the investigation started. Burleigh explains on that. Although I do find this kind of weird and kind of back and forth. It's like maybe Burleigh got talked to between then or something. I don't know. Burleigh is an odd character in this thing. For those who get into the nitty gritty of the story, Burleigh is one I kind of struggle to understand because he is the one that was leading the Othello surveillance, which heavily indicates that they dropped the ball. Like, what is going on? It's just insane they would fuck up this hard. But then he also was implying there are other people, like this Zykot individual who was handling the murder of the girl in Aubais that also seemed to be connected into the Courcelles gang. Of which he was the handler of the informants within that gang. So kind of makes you wonder what the hell is going on here is essentially the point. But as I said, Burleigh, he's pointing this stuff as Burleigh, but kind of pointing fingers at Zykot. But Burleigh himself is also kind of like, as we kind of talked about his, search of the domicile when he heard the kids, the whole silence thing. I don't know what the deal is with this guy. He kind of reminds me of, what's his name? I can't think of the name of the guy, the lead investigator in Oklahoma City bombing, the FBI guy. I can't think of his name right. Danny Coulson. Kind of reminds me of that because he's a guy who still says shit like, hey, they should reopen the investigation. There's over 20 people saying they saw John Doe too. That seems significant. Saying stuff like that. So even though he was the lead investigator. So this is almost similar thing. It's almost as if Burleigh was given a talking to by somebody. And so when he's able to, it's almost like he says the quiet parts out loud, within feasibility. So perhaps. I don't know. It's hard to get a read on him. Concerning police protection, this is Burleigh again. Investigations are underway. These investigations are being entrusted to Committee P with regards to Mr. Michaud on the Gendarmerie and Mr. Zyko of the Charleroi Judiciary Police. As for court protections, I have no information to give you, and I do not have the authority to investigate magistrates. But I do wonder if some of them might be invested in possession of certain cars advantageously acquired through Mr. Zykot. I could hardly specify. I am merely wondering and cannot find a reasonable explanation for the shortcomings already noted in the instruction relating to the Aubais affair, which are essentially the work of magistrates. End of quote. Again, here Boulay is directly attacking Zycot, saying he might have corrupted magistrates through his car business. It wouldn't be a first through him. Oh, I actually got that backwards. I was mentioning Zycot earlier. I guess Zycot was the guy who owned it sounds like he's the guy who owned the car business. So, or maybe I'm wrong. Let me see. Let me go make sure. Let's get the name correct, which one Zycot is. See if I can find it real quick so I'm clear on it. Sorry. Yeah, no, that wasn't one of the... Okay. All right, I think I was right. I think Zycot was the cop. Okay, so they're just implying that through his connections with the informants of the Cressels gang, that he was perhaps supplying them with vehicles and stuff. So honestly, it kind of looks like he would be the point man for the awful operation I was implying when I was talking about the Bongino story earlier. But all right, let's get back in the chat, and I think that'll be enough for today. And then we'll check in with you guys tomorrow. We'll continue this. So let's keep going. Oh, some more race talk in the chat. Great. All right, keep going. All right. Let me see. Scrolling through, seeing what if there's anything you guys have to say before we get out of here. You guys are talking a lot, but nothing relevant to what we that would be worthwhile bringing up. All right. Okay. Well, that might be it. So. So is this about police covering atrocities or being a part of them? Far too common. Exactly. Yeah. When the Dutroux affair, that's like the whole crux of the story. Basically, is that like these motherfuckers, they're helping these shits out. Like the gendarmerie of the Belgium, like in the Dutroux affair, are like their hands are covered in blood, and so it's pretty gross, really. And it also gets into the Gladio connection. If you're new to this story. Go look through some of my old content. I think Austin too, if you're a fan of Austin's work over the Underclass podcast, he's got a Dutroux episode on it. So a lot of great. I've covered it quite a bit. It's a super fucked up story. Kai ties into Gladio, so literal false flag stuff going on while also being tied into a child trafficking network. It's kind of like the nexus of Gladio is where it all comes together, and you really start to see what the fuck is going on here. It's pretty wild story. All right. Scrolling. All right. Brent Thompson says, great show. Well, thank you. Someone says, is a Mayan calendar on your wall? No, that's like, are you talking about over here? No, it's like a shitty fucking, it's a dartboard. It's like one of those cheap little dartboards like kiddos play with. I mean, I need to take it down. We haven't used it in probably fucking, I don't know, probably well over 6 months or a year. But anyways, yeah, it's just one of those things to play with the kids every now and then. But yeah, it's just a dartboard. But yeah, guys, let's get out of here. I'll have more for you guys for you tomorrow. We'll continue this Dutroux reading. But I appreciate you guys showing up. Let me scroll, make sure there's nothing in no Rumble rants or nothing like that I missed. Which, by the way, you guys can leave Rumble rants. That is a thing. I like money, so if you want to do that, that's cool. But obviously, I prefer you to do the prescription model. So if you do want to give me money, go to Patreon. Which I guess let's do that real quick. I do want to remind you guys if you want to support the show. You like, share, subscribe, comment, do all that sort of good stuff. Also, you can follow me on Twitter at TowerGangJose. That helps. Also, especially for this show, it helps because in this show, you guys tag me and stuff, especially content that you guys would be interested in, which is generally going to be stuff that I'm interested in because you watch my show. It's kind of a vicious little circle here, huh? So tag me and stuff you feel like it'd be interesting, and I'll likely bring it up on the show. So. But also, if you do want to directly support the show, you can go over to patreon.com/NoWayJose2020. The lowest level is $2. That's where you get access to early episodes, much like the episode I did last night with Toad, doing another episode of Democracy of the God That Failed. Also going to be doing another episode tonight, continuing our Waco coverage, me and Austin. We're going to call this Waco Weirdness, because this is where we get into some of the weird stuff. We kept it straight-laced in the last one, and even then we got kind of weird. But we're going fucking hard in this episode tonight, so that'll be fun. I'm looking forward to that. But you also get ad-free RSS feed, and then you also can get priority chat for the call-in portion of me and Austin's weekly call-in show, which is on Tuesdays at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. Like I said, it's a live call-in show, already dead. And call into that, hang out with us. It's a fun time. But with that, guys, also my highest levels, my sponsors, I read them off every episode. My co-host and Tower Gang at Tower Gang Toad, also at ApplegateDs, at ZOVRECK, at _Infusil, Tim Tuttle, at John Cleveland, Will Bill's Delicious Blueberry Rabbit Eye Wine, the Big Fan Show Tournament at INWARD Lover. Man, I'm getting good. I should start I should start applying for jobs, doing like the end of commercial readings. I'm getting good at it. So, but I appreciate you guys. I appreciate the support. It really goes a long ways. Hell, like I said before, within this year, this will be my job in the next year. I mean, I won't even be having to pick up shifts. But as I do with that, though, I do want to remind you guys, maybe Friday. So be keeping, if you are someone who likes to be here every day, there's a chance Friday might not be happening, but we'll see. We'll try. We'll see if we can make it happen. With that, though, we're going to get out of here. Love you all. Deuces. Bye-bye.